All right, we're continuing with that big story that is coming in. Russia accusing Ukraine of attacking the Kremlin with drones overnight in what they are describing is a failed bid to kill President Vladimir Putin. The Kremlin said that 2 drones have been used in this attack on Putin's residence in the Kremlin citadel, but have been disabled. These drones were disabled by electronic defenses. Russia, it says, reserves the right to retaliate, a comment that suggests that Moscow might be using this incident to justify possibly a further escalation to the 14-month-old war with Ukraine, or possibly a targeted strike of some kind. Ben Aris is a Russian journalist who continues to be with us. Let me just first try to understand from you, Ben, the kind of visuals that are coming out of this supposed drone attack. Has anything of this kind happened at the Kremlin ever before, this close to the Kremlin?
Kremlin, but this is not the first time Ukraine has flown drones into Russia. And I think it was maybe 2 months ago, there was actually a volley of 6 or 7 drones, and they got as far as Moscow. But they got shot down in the outside Moscow, in the countryside. They didn't actually make it to the city. They came down near an airfield. To actually strike within Moscow itself is a first, and of course it's very shocking. But like I say, the Russians have been anticipating this. They've already had some attacks, so the Ukrainians have shown that they can fly drones as far as Moscow, and they've been prepared. I mean, the Kremlin has defense guns mounted on the roofs. The Ministry of Defense, which is just up the road from the Kremlin, has been reports, and they've had guns, automatic guns, also on the roofs. And so in that sense, it's not so surprising. I mean, it's a shocking attack. But like the Kremlin said, it seems that they anticipated them coming in and they got shot down in good time.
Can I try and understand from you? We're still waiting, of course, the Russian authorities giving us more details. But some of the Ukrainian voices are already wondering whether this is just propaganda and whether there was an actual attempt to kill President Putin or just some other kind of attack that they were planning. How do you see this episode escalating the conflict that is already continuing for more than 1 year?
Well, it's impossible to say. I mean, we have unconfirmed reports. The footage that's coming on the Telegram channels showing smoke around the Kremlin. So I think there was an attack. Typically, Kyiv, Bankova, the president's administration, doesn't comment on these kind of attacks. When there was a huge bomb on the Kerch bridge that didn't destroy it, but did a lot of damage. Again, Kiev didn't comment on that. There was another bomb that went off in Crimea in an airfield and destroyed several planes and set off an ammunition dump. And again, there was no comment from Bankova. So they tend to be very quiet about this. And I don't think we'll see any kind of comment or confirmation coming from the Kremlin side. There is a possibility that it's partisan action, that the drones, as I say, I mean, Ukraine border is a long way away at the edge of what drones can fly. So it's possible that these drones were smuggled into Russia and launched closer to Moscow.
Okay.
That could have been a special ops operation by the Ukrainians, or it could have been, there's a small group of Russians who are fighting against the Kremlin who have been carrying out small acts of terror and blowing up city government buildings and police stations in Russia. So I think it's going to remain unclear. But as for assassination attempt, I mean, the Kremlin territory is huge and it's never clear where Putin is, and he tends to be inside. The chances of killing Putin with a drone attack on the Kremlin building is very, very low. And the Russians have already said that he wasn't actually in the Kremlin at the time.
Right.
He spends a lot of time at his residence. But the PR victory from this is enormous for the Ukrainians. I mean, to strike to the heart of Russia, to Moscow.